You worked at Microsoft, Tesla, and Dropbox. I would love if you could share with us the best and worst of each of these companies as much as you can.
Microsoft, as you can imagine, global footprint changed the world by putting a computer on every table. So I think I learned a lot about scalability from Microsoft. Dropbox came along, and Dropbox is, in my opinion, one of the best companies from a culture perspective. And then lastly, Tesla, as you asked, I mean, who doesn't know Tesla? And Elon Musk is everywhere these days. It was incredibly working there. Every day was go, 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 go.
Awesome. Amazing. Look, before we go into some of the challenges that you guys are currently tackling at Xsolla, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story. And when I we were discussing and I was looking your profile up, you worked at Microsoft, Tesla, and Dropbox. So pretty impressive set of names there. I would love if you could share with us the best and worst of each of these companies as much as you can.
Yeah, that's a great question. And of course, remember, I can't share anything confidential. So anything
Of course.
publicly known is what I'll talk about. First of all, yes, I am incredibly lucky that I had an opportunity to work at these companies. I really think I've learned a lot from these companies. That's how I grew quite a bit in my career. The opportunity I got to get mentorship, which I believe very strongly in from great leaders, really, really helped my career. I think all of those three are, enormously great companies in their own ways. Microsoft, as you can imagine, global footprint changed the world by putting a computer on every table. So I think I learned a lot about scalability from Microsoft. When you think about a product, the first thing we think about is real scale.
Mhm.
Million to billion to hundreds of billions of users. How do you make it happen? One of the things I worked on is a commerce platform, and the growth was a hockey stick growth of the platform we built. That just shows you when how Microsoft launches something, how broad their reach is. Of course, on top, they have a enormously known name. The brand is
Mhm.
known wide. Those things helped in terms of scaling. So the biggest thing for me is think scale from the get go. Don't think about scale as you grow. You have to start, your baseline starts at a billion users, something like that. So scalability is a big thing I learned there. And second is it's a huge company. As a result, there are lots of stakeholders. There are a lot of teams you have to collaborate with. So there's a nonstop, interaction and collaboration, and we got to work together with the same goal, even though you might be in different organization, different teams. It's just incredible from outside to think about how can they build a software that works so coolly, whereas internally it's different teams, different divisions coming together to make it happen. So I think these are something that I learned, and of course, look, every company has their quirks as well, but in general, I would say I learned a lot and had an amazing experience, amazing people I got to work with.
Awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
an amazing takeaway about scalability. Scalability means that your baseline starts at a billion users. That's my takeaway from this. Awesome. Mhm.
Absolutely. And of course, as we know, it's continuing to grow. And
Mhm.
I was there almost 10 years back. And since 10 years, I mean, Satya was the CEO when I joined, when I was leaving. And I literally saw his transition. And then after that, I left. And I left because Dropbox came along and, I wanted to work there and had a great opportunity to go build their commerce platform. And Dropbox is, in my opinion, one of the best companies from a culture perspective. Their CEO is a engineer, and he is incredibly humble person. And I got to work closely with him, saw him, and they had built an amazing culture. They always hired the top minds, and then they gave them freedom to really build awesome products. The culture, the 5 principles Dropbox had, I think I've seen the best in my opinion. It ranges from we, not I, meaning it's a teamwork, it's not an individual, to cupcakes. Cupcakes is like celebrate, have some fun, enjoy it. Don't be just hard and stiff and stressed. Go do good work, have fun. So that was really, really amazing thing I learned from their culture matters a lot. And because of the um, founder's vision, the culture was really, really. They invested in a care team that had enormous influence and power to build the culture proactively. Like they were forcing is a wrong word, but in other words, they were pushing for a good culture because in absence of that push, culture evolves on its own based on
Mhm.
type of people you hire. But they didn't let it happen. They brought a culture and they kind of ingrained everybody into that culture.
Yeah, you
So
need to be intentional about the culture that you want your organization to have. I think that's a great learning and takeaway there.
yeah, yeah. And then lastly, Tesla, as you asked, I mean, who doesn't know Tesla and Elon Musk is everywhere these days. It was incredibly working there. I think it is probably the biggest startup that I've ever worked at. Every day was go, 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 go. And, I think I was probably, I would call it one of the most satisfying jobs I had because we really made impact. Like immediately you can see your impact immediately. And I loved it. Like literally my team's work enabled dollars to come in. So it's like, wow, that's amazing that we released this and it's in use and we're collecting money. So it's just very satisfying as an engineer. Nothing makes an engineer's, day but to see their work in customers' hands and being used. So it was incredible, really amazing, and it's going places. Tesla is here to stay, revolutionize the industry, and continue to evolve from a technology perspective.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that with us, Moin. And for those of you that are listening, Moin actually then went on to work at a variety of amazing companies, including VC in the VC industry and startups of many different sizes and shapes and flavors. He was when you were at Fieldwire, and I actually happened to be college buddies with Eves. So I went to college. I
Wow,
got my computer engineering master's from École Polytechnique in Paris, and Yves was my college buddy there.
no way! That is amazing. He's an
Yeah.
incredible human being. I really enjoyed working with him. He's passionate, and the thing that I remember that event when they were acquired by a European company, like Yves and Javed, the founders, kind of like they proved it. Like there were a lot of skeptics when they started,
Mhm.
and it was exciting to see that they proved skeptics wrong, and they actually built a company with passion, and it was acquired by a bigger company for a significant amount of time. So kind of they felt like they're vindicated. They're like, we have proven it. We proved all the critics wrong. So yeah, they're incredible people, both Javed and Yves.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about Xsolla.
Yes.
As we mentioned, Xsolla is handling massive amounts of data, real time data, and transactions across so many countries. Um, I think the first question I had about that is how do you think about performance and security? I imagine that those are two of your main concerns. Would love to 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 hear from you about that, and if you could share best practices for the engineering leaders that are listening to us, it would be great.
Yeah, no, look, in a transaction processing platform, it doesn't matter what kind of transaction it is. It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be transaction like Facebook has, people liking something, people giving comments. All those are transactions, in my opinion. for all those companies who are in this business, performance matters a lot. Performance directly relates to your customer experience in the end. So you have to think about that from get go. You have to think about that from every day. It's not like you think thought once and build something and rest is good. No, this is an ongoing battle because on the one hand, you build something that's working, but the other hand, company is growing. So you're continuing to have more. So thinking about performance at all stages is very, very critical. And measuring performance, improving performance on a regular basis are key things. And when you think about performance, I think about it more comprehensively, starting from how soon can we launch a product to how soon we make it usable, how soon we make it better at user experience, right? And then obviously behind the scene in the dungeon is the scalability. Performance and scalability are interlinked, obviously. One affects the other, and in the end, customer suffers. So we have been investing from the get go in terms of how do we make it happen that our platform continues to grow, and it's about scalability and performance hand in hand. So that's kind of where we are focused on. As you rightly said, Xsolla is a growing company, and we are well known in the gaming industry and the commerce industry. And our challenge is continue to make sure that our customer feel the least pain, and we grow and keep up with the growth. So that's one of the things I work on, obviously. Yeah.
Got it. And I'm sure that by now you can't know every part of the tech at Xsola, right? Um, how do you prioritize? How do you choose what to focus on?
Yeah, no, I think any tech leader, you have to balance between three things, which is running the business, ensuring that your business you're running is working. Then you have to think about innovation, new products, new launches, because no business is static. You have to continue to improve, continue to add new products, to continue to grow and attract new customers. Then the third part is really how do you build and sustain products? You know, every company, every place, it just builds up some tech debt. It's just very natural part of software development,
They say
right?
as they say it, it's death, taxes, and tech debt. The three things you just can't avoid, right?
There you go. Yeah. So how do you balance between them? Right? There's no easy formula. And also there is no constant division. You can say 30% for this, 30% for this, 30. Can't do that. Company goes through phases and you have to be flexible to accommodate. And also learn from mistakes. And when you're designing new product, try to make it better and better. Right. So these three things are always in your mind. You can't take your eyes off of anything because one brings you revenue today, another one brings you revenue tomorrow, and the tech debt is keeps you in business. So which one do you prioritize? Well, all important to you, right? So it's about balance, and it's about stage of the company. It's about sometimes innovation is more critical. So you might have to pause, investment in tech debt or reduce it. Pause is the wrong word. Reduce it. Make sure
Mhm.
that you're, innovating more at some point. So it's a balance you have to continue to strike as a leader. And of course, the one thing we want to bring up here is how do we use AI into all of this? As you know, AI is becoming big and big. In fact, Xsolla founder Shurik is hardcore believer in AI, and he's pushing the whole company to shift into using AI, which I love it because I think that, like, in fact, I don't know if you know, NVIDIA founder was in India recently,
Mhm.
and he was asked a question. We all know AI can automate, but what can AI not automate? So that was a very good answer he gave. He said, AI can automate a lot, but AI will never replace human being. What it will do is if you as a human being or a professional not using 20-30% of your work through AI and still relying always, then you might become obsolete. So you have to make sure that in your daily life, your work is automated 20, 30, depends on your task, by AI, so that your productivity goes up. That's the key. So people who can do that are fine. People who can't will be in trouble. So that was a very, very good answer. And I think that's how we think as well. Shurik as well thinks.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that I hear many people concerned about the role of software engineers and technology professionals in a world that is powered by AI. I tend to think more of AI as a productivity booster that everyone has access to, and those that can use it well will get an edge, basically. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper there, and since we're talking about AI. Do you see AI already having an impact on your team's productivity, especially engineers?
First, in fact, there is interesting article. Someday I'll send it to you. Maybe after this, is about how do we measure productivity improvement through AI. That's a tough one. That's really, really tough one because yes, in one way you can say how long it's taking to build a feature should decrease in some ways, but it the decrement depends on a lot of things. For example, the state of technology, how the other services you depend on are doing it. So we haven't seen tangible impact yet. It doesn't mean it's not there, but we are on a journey. I think it's going to take some time and we will see impact. Second thing is there are lots of tools out there, whether you look at, Copilot or Claude, 3.5 Sonnet, or you look at OpenAI, there are lots of tools and they're all helping in different ways. But finding the right tool for your team is another challenge in all of this because not everybody uses the same IDE, not everybody
Mhm.
uses the same language, not
Yeah.
everybody has, same code base. So finding that right tool also takes time. And it's not like you expect it for a day and then you immediately change the tool. It doesn't work that way. You have
Yeah.
to give it. I think we are on a good path, but do I have a exact number like Amazon CEO quoted that they saved 80,000 hours of engineers' time? Hopefully, that's a good way to measure, but I'm not ready to give that number.
It's interesting. And I think my follow up questions would be, do you see it as part of your role to make those decisions as to what tools to use, et cetera? And if so, how do you try and keep up to speed? Because things are changing so fast.
Yeah. No, I think in tech, things are changing like incredibly fast. And it's not, I'm sure many leaders suffer with it. How do we keep up? So I do things that others do, which is a lot of podcasts, read books, and really experiment. Um, but I also have incredible team. I utilize them as well because
Mhm.
in the end, I'm not actively coding 24/7 or 8 hours a day. So I need somebody who's doing that to really try out tools and give me feedback. So I also rely on my team to try things out. But the way I don't make decisions is not like I just pick randomly something. I believe in trying out something. I believe in results. Then we make the decision. And also, look, in any tool, usability matters in the end. How integrated is the tool with IDE? What is the user experience look like? If you have to use tool standalone, copy paste the code, that's not a good experience. You want the tool to be integrated into your IDE so you can just literally the code is generated in your file or in your IDE and then you ready to use it. So all those things matter. So yeah, that's kind of how I make decisions. I am trying to keep up. And there are phases where I can't keep up for some time, but then I go back and start keeping up. Yeah.
Got
In
it.
fact,
Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone.
yeah, Bill Gates recommended the book by Mustafa Suleiman, and I'm reading that book right now. So, and that's a really good book for anyone who wants to learn more about AI and its impact. The thing I liked is the risks it calls out. I'm not done yet, so I don't want to. I'm not ready to give you full insight, but something I'm reading right now.
For those of you that are interested, Moin is talking about a book called The Coming Wave from Mustafa Suleiman.
Yeah.
It's really a must read, as long as so many others, about the impact that AI uh, will have on our future. Moin, I wanted to shift gears a little bit here and talk about building and managing engineering teams. That's a topic that is very dear and relevant for a lot of our listeners. So would love to hear your insight. Uh, I think the first question, just to understand a little bit of the setup, do you work across different time zones, across different regions? Do you have a team that is distributed? And if so, which are those?
Yeah, we are a global company. We are a very distributed company everywhere. We have people in North America, Europe, South America, Asia, Southeast Asia. So we are everywhere, honestly. Um, and our CEO, founders, and CEO believes in finding the talent where it is. And because now in this world where we are connected, there's no longer need to move people around to a
Mhm.
region. Virtual is working perfectly fine. So I have, if I were to pick number of countries, maybe 10, 15 countries around the world, I have resources in. Um, it works perfectly fine. And yes, I have calls with my team in different time zones, but it's not insane. It is, I've had calls with my teams everywhere, like in Microsoft, in Dropbox, in Tesla. I always had teams everywhere. Nothing new in terms of my own personal, style. But yeah, it's always fun to have a global team. I learned a lot from global teams.
And can you share a few tactical tips that with our listeners to ensure that the team works well together, and especially to make sure that even with a distributed team, the culture is effective?
Yeah, look, there are three things here. One is communication, right? How do you communicate with your teams when they are so far apart, time wise, culture wise, language, cuisine, everything is different. So we have, in fact, our founder has been very good at that from beginning is asynchronous communication. He's a huge believer in it. He constantly talks about let's find ways to do asynchronous communication. So we use quite a few communication tools that are all asynchronous. That way, you don't have to meet somebody in person or through video calls, but you can express your work through asynchronous communication. So that's one we do significantly. Second is having a clear vision and mission of the company that is everybody aligns with is also very important. Third is really around celebrating wins
Mhm.
broadly, very important as well. That people everywhere should know how the company is doing, how are we growing. That helps people align to a common goal, right? So that's kind of what we do in that sense as well. Lastly, I say I visit a lot of our offices around the world on a regular basis. That makes a huge difference. Huge, huge. I mean, we are still human beings. We still like to shake hands and makes a difference. I don't travel a lot, but I do make sure that I spend time with my teams. I go to Kuala Lumpur, I go to Europe. I haven't gone to South America, but that helps connect with the teams. And then when we are virtual, it works just fine because they know me and I know them and creates a bond that can last for a long time.
That's really valuable input there. I think that's something we've found as well at Ravello. We have a fully distributed team, but Uh, you can really feel the energy change when you do offsites or when you do office visits and you go to certain cities and people get together. The following weeks and months will be still remote, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they carry a different energy. I really love that.
Awesome. Yeah, indeed. Agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah. And so we spoke a little bit about managing those teams. Let's talk about building
Mm,
those teams. When you're thinking about that, um, what are the factors that are most important to you, and how do you screen for those factors?
yeah. This is a great question, and I'm very passionate about this topic. Um, as you can see from my career, that I've hired a lot. In every company, I've built teams, and one of the key things for me is really passion of the candidate. It matters a lot. Is the candidate a believer in your company and passionate about your company? Right? To me, I found passionate people can move mountains versus experts who are not passionate. Because in the end, we wake up every day. We're driven by passion. Um, I don't know. We are 100% driven by I'll make $100 more today. It might be when you're 15-year-old or 20-year-old, but that wanes away after some time. So you need to have a different driver in your life than simply money. So for me, I'm a passionate person and I look for people with passion. So I screen lot of candidates, and that's number one thing I do. Second is I really want to make sure people, when they answer questions, they have actually done it as opposed to faking it.
Now,
Um,
I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, because that's something I was going to ask you. Um, how do you avoid falling for that trap? I mean,
yeah,
there's many times where you're faced with a candidate that is good salesperson, but a bad engineer, actually, because they're able to market themselves very well. How do you avoid falling for that, especially in areas that you're not technically strong on?
yeah. And look, I look at, I believe this very strongly. If you do something, you will know the details 100%. If you haven't done it, you just read a story or you watched a YouTube video of a something, you will not be able to answer every single question. And this is where I go deep into it. Like if somebody says, I built an application, great. Tell me about why do we need an application? What problem are you trying to solve? What approach did you take? Did you consider, native app versus a React Native or, web app? Why? What's wrong with that? So if you just keep going down, you will quickly realize that they have not done it. They may have been part of it. They may have tested it, or they may have been a sister part of another team that watched them other team build. Like you can easily capture it. I've not had difficulty with this. It's one question that I keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you can catch people that are faking it quite easily. The fakers try to play around with words um, instead of telling them if I don't know. It's okay. Sometimes you don't know. That's a good question, but I don't remember or I don't know or I didn't make the decision. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nobody expects everybody to know 100%. But fakers don't say that. They'll try to make up stuff. Yeah, so that's how I do. I do at least 45 minutes to 1 hour interviews minimum, and we spend a lot of time on one project. And second is what questions they ask you. I know these are talked about a lot, but if you don't have any questions, that just tells me you're not passionate about this role or this company or this job or right. Otherwise, you would want to know what you're getting into. Right? I'm asking you to go work in a mine and you have no questions. How is that possible? Like, will I get a mask or what if there's poison? Like, ask me something. You could be dead there.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. And it's easy one to pay attention to. If candidates are not paying questions, are not asking questions, are they really the right people for the job? And so how about process consistency? I imagine you guys must hire many people every year. How do you try and keep that process very consistent across the board?
Yeah. So there are, when you think about processes, there are, three elements to it. One is the talent acquisition, HR side of things, right? How do they people bring people in? How do they publicize the role? All those things. Then you have the interview process. Then you have the decision making step. Um, the recruiting process, I work very closely with my HR team and make sure that the global team has same process no matter where they are located. So obviously we have recruiters all over the world, but the good thing is they're a centralized team with distributed locations. So I make sure the head of recruiting and I are aligned on the process. Second is interviewing. I work with my team, have created a consistent process about number of screenings we do, number of coding questions, design questions. Um, don't make it too long. Also, don't make it too short. I like to strike a balance. If we can't figure out if an engineer is good or bad in 3 or 4 interviews, then perhaps we need to have, revisit our own interviewers or interviewing process. And then I made sure that the feedback is entered into our recruiting tool. And decision making, this is something I learned in my past experience, is typically I like doing a debrief with the interviewers and myself before we make a decision. Obviously, I can't make every single decision, so I make other leaders follow the same process. But any leaders coming into my team, I'm definitely the decision maker.
That's a pretty robust way of thinking about this. I think the whole part about closing the loop, getting the learnings out of that process, and feeding not only feeding that into the system, but also discussing this as a team and a group really empowers decision making for the next iterations of the process. Really like that.
I also think that I strongly believe invest in recruiting, hiring the right people as opposed to managing bad people out. That is actually worse. And it's a time suck. Upfront invest more time, find the right people, your life becomes much easier. So that's why I do a lot of screening of candidates. Lately, unfortunately, the tech world is going through a phase where there is a lot of candidates, but finding quality candidates. And again, I'm not criticizing anyone. When I think about right candidate, I mean fitness into this role in Xsolla. That's how I think about it. Somebody could be brilliant, and no issues with that. But can they work in this culture? Can they work in this position? That's how I look at it. So it's not a criticism of anyone. It's more about fitness.
That's a great way to think about it. I want to shift to our last question here. Um, you're someone that has a deep background in tech leadership. And excluding I would love to hear from you. What are some of the trends that you believe other engineering leaders should be paying attention to right now?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. As you said, I've been doing management, tech management for some time. And I am seeing a shift in terms of the style of management has to change, keep up. If I remember, let's just say 15 years back, it used to be a lot more top-down management style. I think with the newer generations coming in, it has become more, servant leadership or more engaged leadership or more friendly leadership. So it's a I saw the shift happen. I had to adjust myself. Before I remember, when I was at IC, I would just say yes to my manager. Um, I know that's not the way to work, but I didn't know better, and I was like, great, I'll do it. But now I think as a leader, you have to be a lot more clear in your communication about what we are doing, why we are doing, because now it's about motivating people more than people being afraid of their jobs. It has shifted. Maybe call it growth in wealth or call it the Gen Z and their attitude, right? Um, So that shift has also forced leadership to change how they think about it. Uh, so I definitely see that I have to be a lot more communicative, a lot more clearer compared to let's just say I was 15 years ago. So I think it's a good change. I don't call it as a bad change. I think it's a good change, but definitely I've seen the shift happen, and new leaders up and coming have to start planning and thinking about how do they want to manage their team. But I also fundamentally believe in one thing, which is responsibility and accountability go hand in hand. Um, no matter what it is, you're in the end, you're responsible for something, accountable for something. So that's something I hold very dear to. I make decisions based on that. Like, are you taking accountability seriously? Are you just passing the buck or blaming others for whatever it might happen? Right. So that is something I look very closely. I'm fine for somebody to say I am behind and I am responsible for it instead of trying to say, oh, is I'm behind because of that and because of this.
That's really, really powerful. I really like that. And with that, we come to a close. Thank you so much, Moin. Thanks for joining us here at Tech Teams today. It's been awesome hearing about your journey through Microsoft, Dropbox, Tesla, and now Xsolla, where you're taking on immense challenges and building an incredibly scalable technology. We discussed everything from AI to tech debt. And I know our listeners will be able to take away so many great tips from this conversation. If you can share with our listeners how they can keep in touch with you, they can follow you on social media, it would be great. And we really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. I, I can't wait to see what's next for you and for Xsolla.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me time and, exciting to share my journey and my learnings. Hopefully, this helps people, inspire some people. But I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me, you can reach me. I'm also on Instagram. I think my handle is moinm.ai, and I'm also on X. It's Moin the Tech at X. So
Okay.
join, follow, get in touch. Happy to talk, happy to share.
All right. Thank you so much, Moin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Bye.